Hi everybody, this is Dino from Prehistoric Facts. This is a special episode. We're going to be talking about two prehistoric animals today. One is a tyrannosaur and the other one is an ancient elephant. And so we'll actually start with the tyrannosaur. The tyrannosaur is Nanuqsaurus. Nanuqsaurus is found in Alaska and lived around 70 million years ago. And the length of this animal is unknown, and also the height is unknown. But there's estimates of the height to actually be between 6 to 8 feet tall. And so this is actually going to be an animal that is actually still a little bit new in terms of the paleontology community. But even though it's a special type of tyrannosaur that lived in Alaska, and so around 70 million years ago in Alaska, it was a bit of a colder type of environment. So you're actually going to have a little bit more of, like, say, winter and summer type of seasons, and so that actually gives it the idea that this animal lived into a more continental climate. You would actually say is that summers were hot and winters were cold, and so that actually kind of gives the idea of what the climate might have been like around Nanuqsaurus. Now, Nanuqsaurus has only been known by a single jaw fragment, and so that actually is shown just how rare this animal is. It's only been found by one type of specimen. But even though, could there actually be other specimens out there that we don't even know about? That's a possibility. But I would say that paleontologists still need to go back to the rock formation where they actually found Nanuqsaurus and see if they could actually still find more pieces of this tyrannosaur. Did it look like more like the Spinosaurus? Did it look more like Albertosaurus? Did it look like a little bit something in between of, like, say, Tyrannosaurus Rex and the Spinosaurus, or Tyrannosaurus Rex and Albertosaurus? And so that's really going to be the question there, is that whether or not, where does this dinosaur fall in terms of the Tyrannosaur family tree? There is some speculation that it actually is in between the Spinosaurus and the actual Tyrannosaurs, and so that actually could be the case, is that it's in between Tyrannosaurus Rex and the Spinosaurus. And still, we don't know that much about this animal, so it's actually still new in the paleontology community, and so that's the reason why there's not too much of information about this type of dinosaur. Is because it's actually still brand new, and it's only been known by a single fragment of a jawbone, a mandible, basically, dentary. And so that is actually going to be the case, is that I would not actually know how this animal lived, or otherwise how it actually died out. But it probably just died out due to the climate changes and couldn't adapt to the new type of environment, which is where the environment was getting a little bit warmer, and so that's how the animal probably actually went extinct. Now, the second animal that I'm going to be talking about is an ancient elephant species called Deinotherium. And Deinotherium is an ancient elephant that is actually as tall as a giraffe, which actually says something. And also, the tusks of this animal are actually on the chin and curve downwards, and so they curve down and in. So that is actually an elephant that is an elephant species that is rather unique. And so if you actually try to see a Deinotherium skull, you actually see how bizarre this thing is. But also, the teeth of this animal are actually very unusual, is that it's not like modern elephants. These animals were probably feeding on stuff from trees, basically, like leaves, branches, bark, all that sorts of stuff. It's because the fossils of Deinotherium are actually found in Africa, and so they were probably a nearly widespread animal in Africa, and they actually were the largest animal in Africa at that time. In this animal, it would actually be like 12 to 13 feet tall, so that is as tall as a giraffe. And then weight of this thing is actually 8.5 to 12 tons, and so this is a little bit heavier than a African elephant, and so that actually kind of actually gives the idea of like how immense this thing is, and this animal is probably a little bit more dangerous than a lot of people than some people would actually think. And so this animal probably was the most dangerous herbivore in Africa in the Miocene to in the early Pleistocene. And that actually would say that you do not want to get in front of this thing. But mainly probably use its weight as its main defense. But males, when they're in musk, they are actually going to be very aggressive. And Deinotherium is well known in the Walking With series and the Walking With Prehistoric Beasts series, talking about the Australopithecus episode. And you actually see that it lived around the time when Australopithecus was actually around. And so Australopithecus probably did not want to mess with Deinotherium, especially the males. The males are probably the most aggressive. And males are probably a little bit more solitary, just like modern elephant society. And also males are larger than the females. And those tusks, they would actually use those tusks to scrape off bark from the trees. And so that would actually be the indication that this was an animal that feasted anything on trees, and that would actually be the case there. And it did have a long trunk like elephants. We don't know what the digits were on the trunk. Did it have like one finger? Did it have two fingers? Or did it have like a certain amount? You know, we don't know. Because first of all, soft tissue doesn't normally fossilize, and so if we ever find a like a fossilized trunk of Deinotherium, we would actually find out whether or not it had like a single digit like Asian elephants. Did it have two digits like on African elephants? So that is actually going to be the question there, is whether or not this animal actually had, how many digits on the trunk did it have? And also, and another thing is that it probably was in between hairy and not hairy. So it probably had some hair, but probably the juveniles probably have more hair than the adults. Because if you're in Africa, it's a warm environment, and also the environment in Africa, you're not going to be able to actually sustain that much of covering on your skin. So you're pretty much going to have a bare skin. And also, this animal probably had a very thick skin. So like modern elephants, like all pachyderms, they had very thick skin, so they're very tough animals. And so the juveniles were more vulnerable to predators, whereas the adults, they didn't worry about anything. And so that would actually have the indication of like how their behavior might have been. And also the behavior would actually be more aggressive than modern African elephants. And so that would actually be the one thing that I would say. If we went back in time and saw Deinotherium, we'd probably get a safe distance. Probably I'd say like 100 yards away. Because in that way, you do not want to get in front of this thing. And also, the ears of this animal might have been a little bit smaller than African elephants, but even though they could actually be able to cool themselves down like most elephants do today, and the extinction of Deinotherium would actually just be is that when the climate changed, plants changed, and also you have this drought that actually happened in Africa. Because if you go back in the Ice Age, if you look at the Pleistocene in Africa, you actually see is that Africa was nearly dry, and so that actually says that the plants around that time were disappearing. And so if you're in northern Africa, that's when the Sahara Desert actually started to expand. And so once desertification actually started happening, then that really actually would actually be the extinction of Deinotherium, is that it could not adapt to a long drought, and that could actually be the case, is that it did not adapt to the new changes in the environment. Alright, that's it for now. Now, there will be no new episode this week, considering it's Thanksgiving weekend, so everybody out there, happy Thanksgiving, and hope you have a safe and fun Thanksgiving, and also be kind to everybody in your family, and that's always important. But next week, we'll actually have a new Answering Questions episode. So if you got any questions about dinosaurs or any other prehistoric life, feel free to email me at dinochris71@gmail.com, or just go on my Facebook page, Prehistoric Facts of Dino Chris. Like the page, you can actually post your questions on the wall or on the comments section. Remember to keep your questions short to the point. You could also follow me on Twitter at CSJRALL. That's my Twitter page. I post pretty cool stuff on there. And take care of the people around you, and also for younger people out there, to make sure to listen to your parents, your teachers, and your guardians. It's the best motivation you can have for good education. It's very important to have a good education. So with a good education, you're going to get a good job in the future. And next, the answer questions episode would actually be next week, Monday or Tuesday. And this week, well, there's gonna be a little bit of a surprise coming in store on Friday or Saturday, and so just stay tuned for that, and I'll post it on my Facebook page. Keep an eye on that, and also take care of everybody, and I'll see you guys next week.